Hello and welcome to today's Medicinal Monday. I'm Dr. Susanna Alter,
And it's Dr. Ben here.
and we're both naturopathic doctors who empower individuals to heal themselves through whole food plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
And that's what we're doing, as always, in these Medicinal Monday conversations. This week, we are taking a little bit of a step backwards, as we kind of do step into and out of deep, granular discussions around health and how to keep the body in balance. And this week's conversation is more of a mindset conversation, a mindset shift, if you will, in how we're thinking about and relating to health. Because quite literally, I don't know about your experience, Dr. Susanna, but for me, I hear all sorts of people talking about this and that for this health effect and that health effect. And oh, I can take some of this to increase perfusion of blood flow to my muscles. And I can take some of this for recovery. And I can take some of this to kill the antioxidative, the free radicals that can be created. I can take this to quench inflammation. I can take this to balance my microbiome. And that approach might sound like, glamorous and exciting, and it might get our intellectual, and we're invested in it, and we buy the supplement and we buy the book and we read the story and we go down that rabbit hole and we're invested in the idea and it makes sense. And maybe it's even completely factually, scientifically accurate and true. But nevertheless, as we pursue this kind of reductionistic mindset, for lack of a better term, we just simply lose sight of the forest through the trees, and our bigger picture of health and the creation of health from the ground up. We're neglecting that more important thing, which is, from my perspective, the most important thing to focus on as human beings responsible for our experience of health in our body during this life.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can implement to get, solid short-term effects, but we need to ask the question, how is this going to support our health long-term in the long game?
The long game, the big game, the big picture. We can't escape the natural cause and effect. For example, the example of caffeine for energy, right? It's like there would be no one who would argue with the fact that caffeine gives the body an energy boost. But at what expense? Where does that energy come from? What are the consequences of that? Of course, we know that it upregulates the nervous system, kind of puts a strain on the adrenal glands, and throws our endocrine system potentially out of balance, at least in the longer term, kind of chronic, bigger picture. So we just always have to be playing that long game.
Exactly. Yeah, I like some of the other examples you brought up as well, taking ibuprofen to kill inflammation. And yeah, while it has a very strong and immediate effect, it certainly does have its side effects. One of which is that it's extremely harsh on the digestive system, and people can definitely develop intestinal inflammation and stomach irritation from taking NSAIDs on a regular basis.
Of course. But that's not to say that that they don't work. They if you have a headache that's inflammatory, it's gonna help your headache get better.
Right.
Then yeah, this other example that came to mind is like alcohol as a sedative or a nervous system, a nervine. We know that alcohol kind of cools the nervous system. Same could be said for maybe like cannabis, smoking pot. Like I think like different strains have different effects, but in any event, like there are herbs and products and natural things and synthetic things and pharmaceutical things that can be used to cause things to happen in a body that may be a preferred, like a beneficial short-term effect. Of course, and then this could span into the realm of just dietary patterns in general, right? Like we know that a great way, we say it all the time, a really great way to manage blood sugar issues is to stop eating sugar and focus our diets on fat, such as a ketogenic diet. That's a really great way to manage blood sugar. Does that create health and reverse the underlying cause of blood sugar dysregularities, insulin resistance? No, it actually perpetuates it. So we need to be considering like, yes, like short-term health effects can be important to consider. We feel them, we experience them, but we can't neglect the longer term consequences for our choices and behaviors.
Right. Yeah, I like the example. Were you going to bring this up later of also like kind of fitness supplements and kind of performance nutrition and stuff?
Well, we can bring it up now.
Yeah, I just because it's another really good example of how, we can take creatine powder, we can take protein powder and just like flood the body with way more protein than it really needs. And yes, we might get more results in terms of building muscle faster, whatever it is that you're going for. However, the long-term effects of an extremely high protein diet is, of course, the strain on the kidneys long term. And gosh, it's like I don't think people realize that when they're in their 20s and they're just wanting to kind of build and tone their
Yeah.
body, that down the road they might end up with chronic kidney disease.
Yeah. And of course, like someone taking protein powder for a few years of their life is not going to probably in any significant way affect their big picture health. But if we create habits in this sort of way, then it most certainly can. And yeah, the thing that came to my mind was, just earlier this week, or no, not earlier this week, it's Monday,
Mhm.
last week, a few days ago. Yeah, someone was asking me about like my thoughts of like different performance nutrition fueling during performance and like races and stuff, and taking goos and all these things like for fueling the body. And I said, yeah, I'm like, and he was also talking about, he's like, I really don't, I'll eat anything as long as there's no fiber in it. And I was like, oh well, I have a completely different approach. Like, I eat fiber all the time, like especially, when I'm, active or not.
Was that because the fiber will slow down the absorption of carbs and he
I
was wanting
don't
the quick
know.
energy, or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But in any case, the fact is that he was focused on, okay, how can I bring in like fuel for my muscles? Doesn't matter what it's from. It's got to fuel my muscles. And I'm thinking, what can I eat to like make my body feel good and healthy? And of
And
course,
also feel your muscles.
and also fuel my muscles. But yeah, maybe not with the quick boost and with the caffeine and with the other nutrients, but when I'm eating like a banana or dates or any sort of real whole food, what came into the conversation is, of course, there's the built-in phytonutrients as well as the fiber and the water that kind of just synergize the process and offset any sort of metabolic damage. And maybe, so maybe it's like, okay, I'm not creating the energetic like fireworks that might come from some goo or something like that, but but longer term and for a healthier body like that, it's just kind of a no-brainer what creates more health. And then of course we know that a healthy body, or at least we should know that a healthy body performs well over time, you know, because we're able to recover. So, anyways, getting into that's kind of another tangent, just like the whole performance mindset, which I'll admit, I'm not an elite athlete. I'm very active and I'm passionate about my activities, but I'm not like a competitor, like at any sort of national level, competing with the elite guys in any sort of sport or way. So if that's, that could be while eating whole plant foods, I think. But anyways, yeah. What
Mhm.
else?
It's just another good example, and there's so many examples out there too. I mean, we could consider all of the things that we can do to support our appearance, beauty, beauty nutrition that doesn't support us long term. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Botox or what?
well, that's not really nutrition.
Oh, that's, but it's like that's yeah, as you said, beauty nutrition. What's an example of beauty nutrition?
The one that comes to mind for me is collagen. collagen
Does that
supplementation.
even like do anything? I mean, hasn't that been well proven to be a scam? Collagen.
No, I think that some people do notice that their skin improves and that their hair growth improves, their nail growth improves
Hmm.
with collagen. But I've experienced those same effects by drinking more mineral rich fluids like green juices and mineralized water. And anyway, the long-term effects of collagen, when we have a podcast episode on supplementation with collagen, but many, many times these collagen products are contaminated, even the organic collagen that comes from your grass-fed beef. They're contaminated with lots of toxins that have built up in the animal's bones throughout the animal's life, including herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals. And so the
Hmm.
long-term effect of just having that every single day, all those toxins bioaccumulate in your liver, putting a strain on your liver, putting a strain on so many other processes in the body. So anyway, there's so many examples out there.
So that's beauty news. Well, yeah, and then there's all like then there's like what I was thinking of the protocols and procedures. The cortisone injections. That it's like that kind of alleviates that quenches the fire, but there's also evidence that it like starts to break down bone and disrupt the immune function and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's so important and helpful to just consider creating health from the ground up, which is a long game. It's a lifelong game. And I always like to also remember that health, as we envision it, like we might envision ourselves being something that we're not right now, but health is not that. Health is like the journey into that, which is always unfolding. And our vision for optimal health now, today, is going to be different than it is a few months from now, or a few days from now, or whenever, because it's just a perpetually unfolding journey and everything's always shifting. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Anything else, Susanna?
Well,
You want me to just stay talking?
yes, I do. Go to the next point for now, and then I'll
What's the
be
next point?
stimulated.
Is there? Yeah, I don't have a next point.
Oh, you don't?
This
Yeah.
was supposed to be a conversation, and Suzanne's just sitting here talking about collagen.
Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. I thought that you were guiding the conversation a little bit more today. Um, but yeah, I mean, what examples from your life come up of you trying to kind of get immediate results, but maybe it backfiring or just not supporting health?
That's a good question. I can't think of any. Well, I mean, I definitely used to be a coffee drinker and like, oh, I gotta focus. I gotta turn it on and focus and work hard, and I'd use coffee in that sort of way. And for those of you who don't know, I haven't used coffee in a few years at least, and I don't feel like I'm lacking at this point. I don't feel like I'm lacking what I felt or thought coffee was giving me. You know, I feel like I've been able to build that energy, that sustainable kind of focus, that clear mind. I feel like I've been able to build that from the ground up. And that being said, now that I think a little bit more about like the effects of coffee, obviously it's a drug. It's a performance enhancing drug, as a lot of people would say, and it's got clear effects in terms of our cognitive processes and stuff. But at the same time, it's a good example because coffee and caffeine, like high amounts of caffeine, it's not sustainable. It's not health promoting. And the healthy energy, yeah, it might have a different quality to it. It might not be as like just like I don't know. I don't know. It's not, it's got a different quality to it. It's not as but at the same time, that's more in line with nature. The ebbing and flowing of energy, not the shooting off of rockets
Mhm.
constantly every single morning. that's not in line with nature. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, yeah, some days maybe there's a little bit lower thing. And it's like, oh, if I had a cup of coffee, I would have really be able to do that. But also if I just like be more in the flow, I can allow myself the grace to get things done in this natural, creative, productive sort of way that's not this artificially enhanced synthetic,
Mhm.
rocket ship that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and what I also observed as you were going through that journey of drinking coffee and not drinking coffee was some of the drawbacks that it gave you, which was one that, there was a certain point where your
Yeah.
adrenals just kind of bunked.
What?
You needed a little adrenal support, right? And
Oh,
that's
well,
one of the long-term effects of lots of coffee drinking. Not that you were drinking it excessively, but
mm,
that it stimulates the adrenals to work harder than they would without caffeine.
I forgot about that. I
Yeah.
forgot about that, I took a year or so to really kind of nourish the adrenals with herbs. And
Mhm.
during that year, I was also drinking coffee,
Oh, that's
but
so
but less.
and
Um,
also, it wasn't great for your digestive system too.
yeah,
There is that as well.
yeah,
I feel like that was the factor that really got you off of the coffee.
it was.
Yeah.
It was.
But it's interesting because talking about all these examples, it's like I did a lot of them in the past. I mean, I there was a time when I was dealing with my chronic joint pain where I took ibuprofen every single day. And then that led to chronic digestive issues. There was a time where I relied on alcohol to really kind of help me feel relaxed in social settings. And of course, I feel like that contributed also to my chronic health issues in the past. There was a time when I was taking collagen powder, and I don't think that really helped me long term for anything. Like a lot of these examples, I feel like, I fell into that desire to want the short term effect of feeling better, or getting the short term results. But now in hindsight, I look back and see how I wasted time, I wasted money, I wasted energy in all of those practices. And that the thing that brought me the most lasting and sustainable health is really building this foundation of health that took time. And I think that is a message that I really want to share here, is that especially for people who are in the midst of a healing journey, that real true health can certainly take time to build. It might not be an overnight fix. And that might be really frustrating for some people to hear. But if you stay patient and you stay the course and you really apply the things that do create that strong, resilient terrain of health in your body, the rewards are going to be so much greater than anything you could get from any kind of short term, result driven kind of quote unquote solution,
Yeah.
or gimmick, really.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a few things that I'd like to that kind of jogged my memory of things that I wanted to say. One thing was the cost, like the price to pay, like these supplements and protocols and stuff. They're costly, and the things that contribute to real lasting health, they're inexpensive. Maybe it's changing in today's world as everything seems to be getting a little bit more expensive, but nonetheless, it's just the basics, right? The food, the air, the water, the sleep, all of these things that are really cost effective, a lot of
Mhm.
bang for your buck. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking just then was the idea of like when we're creating health from the ground up, then it's okay if something slips. If we're relying on coffee for energy, then if we don't have a cup of coffee, we're going to be wiped out. If we're relying on Advil or ibuprofen for resolve our inflammation, if we don't take our Advil and we've got chronic inflammation, we're going to be probably experiencing a bit of pain. But when we are creating health from the ground up with our life, and maybe we have a day where where we're less than optimally hydrated, or maybe we have a day where we, are traveling and have some drive-through restaurant food that's lower quality. We're not going to be suffering long term from these short little blips in our deficiency of taking care of ourselves optimally in those moments, because we've got this reservoir of resources, like physiologically, we've got a reservoir of nutrients and resources that make up for any sort of transient deficiencies that we may have. So the way that I see it is we're living life kind of always investing. We're putting investments into the bank, and those investments are churning and working and keeping things replete, so that we can pay our dues and pay our taxes, or continue to make our payments, even if we're sliding a little bit. And then of course maybe we'll have recurrence of some acute symptom or some little message from the body, just a gentle reminder, hey, drink more clean water, hey, eat more green leafy vegetables, hey, don't forget to sleep like you need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end, yeah, no magic pills, and it's funny that humanity is kind of, the way I have seen it at least, is it's like humanity is kind of programmed to expect or desire or to fantasize about some sort of potential remedy for all ailments that's just around the corner. It's like this kind of ubiquitous fairy tale that we all, to some degree, tell ourselves. But it's not true. That's not where the answer ever will be. The answer is just right in front of us all the time. It's how we're showing up, the way that we're relating with ourselves and our choices in our life. And, again, it's like we're just kind of putting money in the bank, and then hopefully collecting the dividends.
Wonderful. I like that analogy a lot.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. Another Medicinal Monday conversation. Just a reminder, if you'd like to be an Alter Health supporter, and in exchange for just $11 a month, access weekly meal guides, as well as a monthly community supporters call, which is happening just by chance tomorrow. We would love to have you as an Alter Health supporter. You can find out more at alterhealth.locals.com. It's on the Locals platform. And then if you'd like to work together, and if you'd like to really get to the root of your issues and heal yourself through how you eat and live, you can check out our Thrive on Plants program at www.alter.health. And as always, we just are so appreciative of you and you stepping up in your life and living your best. We look forward to staying in touch and seeing you guys next time.
Bye for now.